I've played RuneScape on and off for about 15 years now, though in the past few years I've only really played RS3, and even then it's been during double XP events, which is what I feel the game's really turned into. In an effort to play the game in a way I've never truly experienced it, I decided to hop into old school RuneScape and create a hardcore Ironman account. My first attempt was going swimmingly, and I even had most of the script for this episode written, until I died after getting distracted by debating my wife over how Ratatouille is a bona fide Disney banger, leading me to my second attempt, which is what I'll be playing going forward. My goal is for weekly releases on these kind of episodes, showcasing any challenges people toss my way, or just experiencing RuneScape in a way I've never truly attempted before. I know there's a ton of min-max Sweatlord guides out there, but I'm avoiding those and only really checking quest walkthrough guides since I want to play the game my way, and I feel like min-maxing would ruin the experience for me since I'm not really trying to race anyone. All that being said, here's what my experience of an old school RuneScape hardcore Ironman run has looked like so far. After completing the tutorial and arriving in Lumbridge, I did what literally every other Ironman does and went over to the magic tutor to claim some free runes. After that, I pickpocketed the man twice and set off to do some basic quests. First quest on my list was X marks the spot, an easy one to accomplish since I know where all the locations are already. After completing that, I grabbed some flour, an egg, and a bucket of milk for Cook's assistance since I was already in the area. Handing the items in, I headed upstairs to start Rune Essence. Fun fact here, you can just keep dropping the air talisman and Horatio will give you a new one indefinitely. Before setting off for the Wizard's Tower, I grabbed my Ironman armor from the tutor sitting out front. It's actually got some pretty decent stats for starter gear. The quest itself is just walking back and forth between some cities, so it's more of a small time sink than an actual grind. From there, I set off for Witch's Potion to get a couple levels of my magic skill. Turns out burnt chicken won't work and it has to be meat, so I banked my gear and set off to fight some rats for a bit. With Witch's Potion wrapped up, I set off for Lumbridge again to level Thieving. I know there's some quests for me to do still, but I can only do a few of them before I get bored, which I completely understand the irony for, being that I'd rather just grind than do any story-driven quests. Because of this, I set off to farm chickens for an hour or so. I can use the meat for food, the bones for prayer, and the feathers for fishing and fletching, while also raising a few combat levels to prevent me from being one-shot by some random dark wizard. Before this, however, I set off to do some mining to craft my true weapon of terror, a bronze skimmy. I fought chickens until I hit level 5 in attack, strength, and defense, which gave me 485 feathers, 74 bones, and 76 raw chicken. Cooking the raw chicken brought me from level 6 to 14, and leaving me with 57 cooked chicken. Burying all 74 bones got me to level 5 in prayer, which was a little less than I was hoping for, but that was also just with burying regular bones. The focus now turned to thieving. I used the men walking around in Lumbridge to hit level 5 before heading to Rimington to take a boat to Artie, where I sat at the baker's stall until unlocking the ability to steal silk from a nearby stall. From the baker's stall, I ended up with 314 cakes, 48 chocolate slices, and 114 bread. Once I hit level 25, I moved about 10 tiles northwest and started stealing silk. I didn't really have an idea for how much time I wanted to spend doing it, so I just let it ride until I got bored. Eventually, I got tired of getting caught trying to steal silk and tried my hand at selling some of the bakery items, which actually turned out to be a pretty decent profit. It's not as much as silk, but it's better than nothing. After selling the rest of the silk, I got to work on woodcutting. I needed enough logs to catapult me to level 50 firemaking, which ends up being about 61 logs, 183 oak logs, and 978 willow logs. This took some time, but I didn't really mind it all that much since woodcutting is one of my favorite skills to level in RuneScape. For some reason, it's just incredibly satisfying to me to just turn my brain off and mindlessly chop trees for hours. Luckily, Artie has all 3 of the trees that I need just south of the bank I was at, so I set off with my steel axe and got to work. After gathering the 1200 or so logs needed, I got to work on firemaking. One thing I completely forgot about old school RuneScape is just how tedious firemaking actually is. You can't just add logs to a bonfire or brazier like on RS3. No, it's gotta be done one campfire at a time in a giant conga line. I remember whenever I used to find myself with a fist of Gothics when I first played RuneScape years ago, there'd always be like 5 people with 20,000 campfires going from the moment you walked into the lobby until you were taken into the minigame. And I gotta say, experiencing that now for the first time, I respect the grind. The regular and oak logs weren't a problem, but this definitely got boring doing the willow logs. I think a lot of it was just because I'm so used to just grabbing a full inventory of logs and clicking on a brazier, then moving on to another monitor and playing another game while I wait for a few minutes, then just repeating that. With having to make lines of campfires, it's fairly click intensive and doesn't really offer an AFK method. Now that I'm level 50 firemaking, I need 4 pieces of warm clothing. For this, I looked up a quick guide and set out to find those pieces. It's worth noting that you do need a spade for all of these locations. The first one is right below Yanel on the flower patch next to a willow tree here, and it's the Clue Hunter cloak. The second and third pieces are north of Artie by a warrior camp. These pieces of the Clue Hunter outfit are right on the bottom left of the oak tree near the camp. The fourth piece was in the location of Brimhaven, which I sailed to using the same transportation that brought me to Artie originally. The spot for this is right next to a dungeon entrance, exactly 1 pace north of this little pile on the ground here. With basically everything I need, there's only one thing left that I wanted to do, which was use the rest of my oak logs on planks so that I could level my construction a little bit. In RS3, there's these workbenches that you can saw logs at to turn them into planks, but in old school, the only way we can get planks right now is to trade logs in GP at a sawmill. I still need to buy a house, which costs 1k, so it's important to not overspend on the planks here. My goal is to get at least 10 construction levels before starting my next endeavor. I have 10k, take 1k off for purchasing a home, and another 1500 or so for travel expenses early on, which leaves us with about 7500 to spend on planks and nails. This is what makes construction so expensive, especially in old school RuneScape. Add on an Ironman account who can't use the GE to make money or purchase those logs, and it's the old school RuneScape equivalent of breaking through an iron bar with a nail file. After spending about 8k trading for planks, I set off for Faladar to purchase my house. After purchasing, I spent some time building chairs to level my construction. I ran out of nails on my second run, getting me to level 9 construction, which was good enough for me. All in all, I managed to get 28 thieving, 14 cooking, 47 woodcutting, 50 firemaking, 5 in attack, defense, and strength, 9 in mining, and 6 in smithing in just under 16 hours. 15 hours and 59 minutes to be exact. I think this is a good place to stop for today though. Next episode, we'll head on over to Wintertodt and grind out some more skills there. I appreciate you all, and as always, thanks for stopping by.